has 4 vertices. These vertices then are joined together using edges. So you can see these are actually edges here. Then you have a conceptual type of geometry in polyobject, which is a border. What a border actually is the edge of a polygonal surface. So if I had a hole here in the cube, a border would be the edges around that hole. And borders are generally used as an example. You may have a hole in a polygonal object, polyobject, and you may want to fill that hole as well. You can select the border and then use one of the polyobject tools to fill in that hole very quickly. So borders are more of a modeling tool than an actual fundamental part of a polyobject surface. What you actually see in the viewport are polygons, and you can see that this polyobject is made up of multiple polygons. You can see there's 9 per face of the cube. And those polygons are made up of edges and vertices. So those are the main types of geometry in a polyobject. Oops, I've just moved that there, so I'll just use Ctrl-Z to undo that. Now the last type is an element, and what elements are as an example, let's say you have a polyobject cube and you have a polyobject sphere, and you use one of the modeling tools to attach the 2 objects together. So in effect they become one mesh. Max will actually remember that there used to be 2 meshes, and each one of the sub-objects will become an element. So when you're in element mode, if you click on the cube, you can see it's selected the entire cube. And as it turns out with this particular object, there actually is only one element, so there's only one thing to select. But as I said, if it was modeled by attaching together multiple meshes, you'd be able to select each of the constituent meshes whilst in element mode. So there you go. As you can see, you can switch between each of the sub-object levels by clicking on the little branch here in the stack view, and you can do the same thing by clicking on these icons here in the control panel. So you can see there's 2 different ways to access that particular interface, and you can hit the minus button and that will close up that little menu there. One last thing I'll show you before I move on is let's go back into polygon mode. It's actually possible to convert a selection from one mode to another. So as an example, I've selected this face here, this polygon, and let's say I want to convert that into a selection of edges. I can do that by holding down Control and then clicking on edges, and you can see that it's gone into edge mode and it's selected all the edges that were making up that polygon. I can do the same thing, you know, I can move from edge mode into vertice mode, and you can see it's selected the 4 vertices of that polygon. If I change from say vertices into polygon mode, you can see that all the vertices that had polygons attached, they've selected the faces that were associated with those vertices. So it's possible to, as I said, to go between sub-selection types. So there we are, I select an edge and I convert to face, and it's selected the 2 faces that were associated with that particular edge. So that's a very useful tool when you're modeling. When you have a selection of faces and you want to use them, treat them as vertices, you can just hold down Control and change to vertices, and that selection will be carried over. Very useful. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to create a small plinth for a holy object, which I'm going to create later on in the tutorial. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use basic poly modeling techniques to create the plinth. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into vertex mode, select the top vertices of a cube, and I'm going to pull them up. I'm going to translate them. There you go. Now I want to do the same thing for these vertices here, but it's much more difficult for me to select the vertices in the same manner as I did that. I mean, I could probably go like this and take a stab at it, but I may actually accidentally get vertices that I didn't intend to get. So what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to select one edge. There we go. And I'm going to use this tool here, which is loop. And I click on that, and you can see it selected a loop of edges which runs all the way around the object. So I'll do that again on a different edge to show you exactly how it works. Select an edge and click on loop, and you can see it's selected a loop again which runs all the way around the cube based on the edge that I selected. This is a very fundamental thing when you're poly modeling. Very often you'll have a loop which is in a certain place on the mesh, and you want to move that. So you just select an edge and click on loop, and you've got the loop selected. I'll move that loop up, and I'll do the same thing for the next loop down. Move that one up as well, and there we go. The loops are now in pretty much the place that I want them to be. I'm going to scale this loop, so I'm going to press R to change to the scale gizmo, and I'm going to uniformly scale it. And there we go. I've actually tapered in our surface. Now it's going to be a plinth, so I want to create some kind of tabletop effect. So I'm going to select a loop of edges again and move this up here. And I would really like to produce a thinner part of the mesh here. So something I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new loop that runs all the way around this object. To do that, I'm going to need to connect each one of these edges to the next edge along. Now, connecting edges in Max is very easy. You just select two edges like this, and go down to the connect tool here, and click on that tool, and it connects it those two edges together. You can see it's produced a connecting edge there. If I undo that with Control Z, if you click on the connect tool with the settings button to the side of it, which is something which was introduced in Max 5, you can actually choose the number of connections, so you could have as many as you want there. 6. I'm just going to 0 that. In this case you can't have 0 connections, so it'll go back down to 1, and we'll just OK that, and there's a connection. Now I want to connect all of these edges to create a loop, so I'll select this edge here, and in this case I'm going to use the ring selection tool, which is kind of a partner to the loop tool. And if I click on that, you'll see exactly what it does. So there we are. It's selected a ring of edges which run all the way around the object again. I'll do another selection again, so I'll select this edge here and then do a ring, and you can see you've got a ring selection. So those are the two main selections that you'll be doing using poly modeling, and they're very common. They're pretty much fundamental, so they're something that you have to get used to very quickly, and once you are used to it, you'll be flying along. So I'll select a ring, and I'll use the connect tool, and there we go. It's put in a loop which runs all the way around the object. I'll select that loop, I'll move it up so it's very close to the top of the table, and I'm going to create more of a lip here, pressing R and then scaling this down. So now we've got something a bit more of a table, a plinth I should say. I'm going to create the same thing for the base of the plinth. In this case I'm going to go for a fluted effect. So I'm going to select a ring again, connect it together, select another edge, create a ring again, connect it together, do the same thing again, ring, connection, and now I've got enough subdivisions here to be able to produce quite a nice fluting effect. So I'm going to do that now. Select this loop, scale that, select this loop, scale that down, and select this loop and scale that down as well. And there we go, we've got a sort of taper to the bottom of the table. Now I think it'd be nice to have some detailing maybe on the upright part of the table here, the plinth I should say. And I'd also like to make the top of the plinth maybe appear to be a little bit more cylindrical. So I'm going to select these edges on the corner, and the same for the next edges.